Let's talk about mind mapping. First, let's start with what are mind maps? Well, they're a way of presenting information visually. They are known by many names. Some of the other common names are concept maps, sketch notes, and visual notes. Mind maps may include images, but they may just use space on the page to convey relationships between ideas. When there are images, the images are directly related to the content. Because we, as humans, are wired for images, but also need text for clarity, the text and the images work together to promote understanding and retention. I imagine many of you may be thinking that you can't draw, so it's important to note at this point that just about anyone can draw recognizable images using simple shapes like lines, dots, circles, squares, and rectangles. Don't be intimidated by drawing mind maps. These are about ideas, not art. The next question is, when do we create mind maps? Mind maps can be created in real time, or synchronously, to lectures and presentations. They can also be done asynchronously, either translating traditional lecture notes into a mind map after the event, or for brainstorming or organizing information like preparing to write a paper or listing tasks that need to be done at the beginning of a project. I'm calling this asynchronous and giving it a turtle icon because you can create them at your own pace. The next question is, why should you create mind maps? Mind maps can be made for many reasons, but all of them share two important traits. First of all, they create a physical artifact that you can look at later. And second of all, using text and images and the physical creation of mind maps engages more of your brain than traditional notes. The specific reasons for creating mind maps do serve different purposes. For synchronous notes, the main purpose is to remember what the lecture was about. You may need to remember either for a test or to put what you learned in the lecture into practice. Additionally, the activity of mind mapping can help you focus and listen better during lectures. For asynchronous notes, the main purpose is to make meaning, to reflect, or to organize information, such as for a project or to write a paper. We often do this kind of thinking in our heads, but the many limitations of our memory mean that we can come up with some great stuff and then forget most of it. To avoid this, get in the habit of writing it down. The next and final question is, how do you create mind maps? Well, first you want to decide if your mind maps will be created using pen and paper or digitally. Pen and paper are often the best for novices and grant you the most portability and freedom. You can play around with preferences for notebooks, sketchpads, and pens and markers. There are many mind mapping computer programs out there for both laptops and tablets that can make mind mapping fast, although they don't offer as much flexibility as those drawn by hand. The dedicated mind mapping programs I have explored all require a subscription, but they're not terribly expensive and they offer free trials. Microsoft PowerPoint or Google Slides are not quite as fast, but can be quite adequate. Any of these programs will allow you to bring in images and emojis, although it will be difficult to make them as image-based as those created by hand. The most important thing is to pick something that will allow you to get your ideas down quickly, so your map creation doesn't slow down your thinking. You can always go back and make your mind map prettier once you've got the content down. One final note before diving into the steps of mind mapping is that mind mapping is not a linear process. You'll need to do the first two steps in order, but after that you may want to jump around. That's okay, and it's how we think. The beauty of mind maps is that they're flexible and don't require us to record our non-linear thoughts in proper order the first time. Still, it can be helpful to have a general idea of what the process looks like, so here goes. First, gather your materials, whether it's a notepad and a pen or tablet with the mind mapping program open. The next step is to decide your layout. I recommend a linear layout for synchronous mind mapping of lectures and a radial layout for brainstorming and organizing. There are other layout options, but these are the two most common. Next, add the title either at the top of the page for a linear layout or in the middle of the page for a radial layout. Here you'll want to use your biggest and fanciest text, or use some kind of visual callout to ensure that the title is the first thing you'll see when you revisit your completed mind map. Next, add your big ideas or themes. There should be a limited number of these, and they should be in the second largest text. Finally, fill in the details, including adding some textual detail and images. The images could be icons like the eye or the brain in this map, or visual metaphors like the rabbit and the turtle. The details also include visual elements like arrows and dividers that direct the viewer's attention and show relationships and divisions between the areas of the map. You can even make little thought bubbles with questions you still have. Some final thoughts are a reminder to use color sparingly, and to remember that the emphasis on the visual images should be ideas and not art. Now we can step back to see what we created. Is it complete? For today, I think so. Mind maps can be used for so many reasons, including lecture notes, brainstorming, project management, organizing ideas for a paper, reflections on an experience, and so much more. You may want to create them for yourself, or you may create them to share with others. There are even people who are hired to create mind maps professionally. I hope that this brief video helps you to understand the value of mind maps and how to create them. What could you use mind maps for?